There is no doubt that you can find somebody to marry if you loosen up whatever standard you want to loosen up. You can find somebody. I'm just saying, depending on how loose you want to make that. Okay, you can make it about their belief system, you can make it about their looks, you can make it about their personality, you can make it about their income, you can loosen up your standards in any way you want. The question is, what are the things that make it work long term? Okay, so one of the things that makes it work long term is that two are walking together in agreement. Scripture tells you that two can't walk together unless they have an agreement on how they're going to walk. Now you can tell me, oh, but I know some people that are unequally yoked and they seem fine. Key word, seem. Okay? And some of them are fine. Did you want to get married to be fine? To just be okay? Yes, these are dark times. Don't ever let dark times be anything that says, well, then maybe we shouldn't have marriages. Maybe we shouldn't have children and bring them into this terrible world. This terrible world? What's so bad about this world compared to any other world going back however many thousand years? The world's always been terrible. When was the world not terrible? Because even if it was not terrible where you lived, it was terrible somewhere else. The world's always been terrible. And it's also had pockets of not so terrible in windows of time. But you hear the young people today all like, well, what's the point? Global warming's just going to kill everybody. And what if it doesn't? Because it's not going to. Boundaries. You got people in your life that just run amok in your life because you don't have boundaries and fences to keep them from just running rampant in your life. And then they breach all over the place. Well, because you let them. Okay? Don't let them. You come down pretty hard and say, hey, that's not appropriate, that's not acceptable. You keep doing that, I'm shutting off access. I don't need you in my life if you're going to keep doing that. All right, next.
So that would have been really helpful like 10 or 15 years ago with the boundaries.
It's never too late. The only thing is that when it's not been done at the right timing, it's harder to slam them in place with the person believing it's a real boundary. So you have to really be hard about and firm about making sure, I know I haven't done this in the last 15 years with you, but this is over. This boundary is real and you do not cross it. That's what Yeshua was doing. He wanted to make sure that the money changers understood this is not good what you're doing. Okay, so that anger, and you see Abba do this, and you see that throughout scriptures when he gets angry with Israel, he gets angry with the nation and does things. But it's not the emotion where we're lashing out. Okay, so Yeshua wasn't emotionally lashing out. He wanted to make the scene really clear, I'm not pleased with this. And then if you notice, he was calm after that and he was fine. Because it wasn't an out of control, out of balance thing. It was a conscious choice. And so if you've ever been in counseling, there's times when you've been in counseling where I've gotten pretty strong with you at times, but I wasn't angry. But other people might say, why are you angry? I'm not angry. I want you to hear and feel that so that you know that that's something you should not be doing. So it's to get the communication where it needs to be.
And my last question is, in Galatians 6, verse 2, bear one another's burdens and so complete the Torah of Messiah. And I am struggling to come up with a context for what that exactly means.
Let's change that, I'm going to guess here, right, to an idiomatic phrase. Bear, what do you think would be the idiomatic phrase? What's it trying to say, saying bear one another's burdens? What's another simple way to say that? To tolerate? No, I think something more strong than that. How about to be there for? Be there for each other. Okay? Because that's I think what he's trying to say. To complete the Torah, you have to be there for each other. Okay? Bearing the burdens sounds much more like, well, I got to tell you what I'm struggling with, and then you have to somehow have a share in that burden. No, that's not what it's talking about. It's like, be there. Problem is that we have such an abundance of just people everywhere teaching that it's a lot of noise and confusion, and it's hard to know what to do. And so, yes, there's a lot of people teaching at this time of year all kinds of confusion and mess. And with figuring out the timing of the holy day and figuring out as far as like the 3 days and 3 nights and all of that kind of thing. Most of the problem is that you don't have enough true unchristianized Jewish understanding. Meaning, by Jewish understanding, let's forget that. Tanakh understanding. Because if you don't understand the Tanakh, you're not going to understand the New Testament correctly anyway. Because you don't really know what they're talking about and what's going on without that context. Because with the proper context, you'd know that the Last Supper could not have been a Passover meal. You'd know that. But you'd have to have the context to know that. I know the burden of responsibility when I'm in the microphone to share with you what it really says and doesn't say, unadulterated, right? What's it talking about in Scripture? Wanting the unadulterated word. Oh, that's a lot of ego for you to think. Look, okay, it is what it is. You need to be figuring out where the adulterated word is and where the unadulterated word is, and you need to avoid the adulterated word. And all those Saturday guys that are teaching Sunday doctrine, that's adulterated.
Yeah. It's contaminated.
Okay? And you know, one of the signs that you know you're there, they're all singing the mainstream songs too, and the mainstream hymns. All the stuff that you're comfortable with when you left the church. All that stuff that you did there, they're all singing. Because to them, there's no difference. They do not see a difference between them and the Baptists, Pentecostals, Catholics, and the other denominations. They do not see any difference. They think we're all brothers and sisters in Messiah. The physics that he has put in place includes when we focus our attention and our emotion on something, the physics of the universe tends to draw us towards, or it towards us, things that will go in alignment with that emotional focus. That means good or bad, by the way. Okay? So they call this the law of attraction. Just like magnetism, right? Something magnetic draws, something to it because of the magnetic pull. Okay, so you have, this idea. Some of you felt like growing up, have told me things like, I just seem to have a magnetic pull for jerks. And I would end up dating them and marrying them, right? It just feels like I'm drawn to them or they're drawn to me, right? Anybody feel like you have some things in your life that are drawn to you that you don't know how in the world okay. So a lot of it could also be your mindset, your focus tends to draw you into the pattern that is where these things are all kind of coming together. When I talk about Abba causing or allowing, let's focus more on the word allowing. He's not causing a whole lot. Every now and then, at very specific, critical moments, he might put his little finger in there and just cause something, okay? Mostly we're dealing with what Solomon said, which was time and chance. Time and chance is why you had the parents you had, okay? Whatever parents you had, whatever situation, that was time and chance. You had no control over it. You were just born into that situation. So don't think about why he caused you to be there. He allowed it to happen. Most of what's happening in your life is not caused, it's allowed. Now, it is caused by things you've done and other people have done, but not by him. He's allowing it because it's working the work in you that he knows he can still get to with what's allowing to happen, what's being allowed to happen, okay? I don't think anywhere that you should understand this, because you guys have been showing this completely wrong out of Christianity. I don't think anywhere is there a requirement that you study the Scripture. You are to read the Scripture so the information is accessible in your mind and in your heart so that when a teacher teaches, you know what he's talking about. Studying the Word on your own is going to get you in a ditch. Trying to find other sources to study from is going to get you in a ditch. What you need is a teacher. You study the teachings. What did the apostles study? The teachings of Yeshua. What did they teach other people to do? Study the teachings of the teacher. And then we study the other teachers like John and James and Paul and Peter, etc. We're studying the teachings of a teacher. But to understand what they're talking about, we should also know, I've read Genesis to Revelation enough times that when they say something, I recognize, that's in Isaiah.